Welcome back to the Sportsball Podcast. I'm Nate, alongside my co-hosts Andy and Zach. This week we will be discussing not a bye week. We actually have some things to talk about, interesting things Huskers-wise. The NBA season's kicking off. Wagons are still trucking in the NHL. And some teams are becoming more and more unserious in the NBA. So we'll go ahead and just
who could that be?
Kind of kick things off with the positive news that the Wagons, as I said, are still trucking in the NHL. Don't look at the most recent game of said Wagons, but they're still
a long season.
In second place, in I believe the Western Conference as a whole. So the Wild 10-2-3. 23 points, and I don't think they play until like Thursday, so I don't have too much to update. They lost to Chicago, I think, some point last week, but
they beat everybody, man.
They beat the other wagon, San Jose, before that, so
yes.
The vibes are still mostly good coming off of that. But I don't know. I mean, at some point. Like, I know it's a long season and like things happen, yada yada, but Winnipeg might not be bad at the old stick puck.
Stick puck. I mean, you're not wrong. Those are involved.
We're not changing it. We're keeping it.
Stick puck.
Yep.
Yeah, they've lost
trademarked
one.
now. Actually.
They've lost one.
Don't try and take it.
Don't look at
they one loss, no overtime losses, 30 points. I haven't watched any of their games, but I imagine they're doing all right if they've won 15 of them so far out of 16.
I'm starting to think maybe I should watch them instead of Mike. Good Lord. I'm still early enough into this fandom. I can just bounce out real quick.
It's true.
I'm not going to do
that.
that.
At least you're now tied for last place in points.
Yeah. I was going to say on the other side. On the other side of the standings.
But you're not in sole possession of it, which is important.
Well, and the crazy thing, it's a 4-way tie right now for the worst teams in the league. But following that up, though, the Anaheim Ducks and the Blue Jackets have only played 14 and 15 games respectively, while Montreal and Nashville played 16. So who knows? There is a chance in the next couple of days that it could get worse. And knowing Nashville, it's probably going to get worse for them too. So continues to be what I've been saying, though, where it's not even a slow start at this point. It's just like the players are good, but for some reason they can't play good together. And it's weird. I haven't necessarily watched all the games, so I have no
that
insight.
Sounds like a certain team in Minnesota that's trying to play basketball.
Yeah, but the thing with basketball is basketball is still just kind of ramping up where now we're getting into that. We're still in the beginning of the NHL season, but still a lot of season left, but we're, 16 games in out of 82. So, we're already, eighth the way or whatever it would be. I don't know the math there. That doesn't sound right, but whatever it is,
we'll go with it.
We got a long way to go yet. And somebody did the statistical analysis that's much smarter than me for the Nashville Predators, and they were 5-9 and 1 or 2 or whatever at this time last year, and still made the playoffs. So always a chance. They just got to go on a wild run, literally and figuratively.
Bring PK Subban back out of retirement,
or do that. Hey, whatever works, I'll take it.
I don't know the logistics behind that, but I'm sure it would be good.
Logistics, schmistics, they ain't a thing.
Are they though?
Nah, those aren't real.
Sound like made up words to me. Maybe.
How's that team in Colorado looking, Andy?
They're doing things. They're doing the old stick puck, as you'd like to say. Their most recent win, sorry Zach, was a 3-2 overtime thriller over the Nashville Predators.
Points for the Preds.
It is.
Point. Point.
It is a point, but yes, Colorado gets the extra point for the overtime win. Georgiev is starting to kind of finally maybe find his footing back again as the standard number one goalie right now, but it's still kind of a fluid situation. You got to be consistent in the NHL if you're going to play, if you're going to be a true number one goalie, and giving up probably a couple goals a game might be just what he does. And as long as the Avalanche still have the top 3 scorers in the league, you can make up some of that ground. It's the fact that when you're starting to give up 5-ish goals a game and you can't score that much, then obviously that becomes an issue. But yeah, I mean, they're 8-8 right now. Still, I mean, they better than we were a couple weeks ago when we were dead last with Nashville. So the fact that we're above them now makes it all better.
How does the underside of the bus look?
Not great, let me tell you. Somehow, some way, though, I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue. This is what being a Husker fan is also like, where it's just, you continuously see a brick wall and run your head directly into it. Same thing right now with Nashville. But I got faith somehow, some way, that they're gonna turn it, not necessarily turn it around, but they're gonna start finding their groove a little bit better. And the good news is like early in the season they couldn't seem to score. Mm-hmm. Now they're able to score, so things are starting to come together. It's just not producing a good result. So,
right.
Whereas apparently your guys' teams decided, oh hey, we actually knew how to do this to start the season, so we're just gonna do it.
Right. And the Avs are slowly still getting their forwards back off of injury and everything. And, when you have Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, who are the literal top point leaders in the NHL. Well, at least Cale is for defenseman. Nathan McKinnon just leads the entire NHL in points right now. They have the offensive weapons. Yes, it is. You kind of want your name thrown around with, the likes of him just on any given day. It's kind of like having your name thrown around with, Jokic is, a casual walking triple-double. I mean, that's kind of what Nathan McKinnon does on the rink. He's like a casual walking, like, I don't know, the equivalent of a triple-double to hockey, like 2-point game. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's a lot in hockey, but it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but it is.
Comparatively, those seem a little different, but I get it.
Yes. Number-wise, they're very much different, but like they're also the equivalent at the same time.
Just kind of a poor comparison in the sake of the points difference.
I don't really know a better analogy to compare a triple-double to hockey.
No, I agree. It's more. It's just funny. Like, he scored a whole 2 points. Where in basketball, it's like, that's terrible.
They're both, but it's amazing in hockey. That either means you scored 2 goals, or you contributed to 2 goals, or you scored 1 goal and assisted a goal. So it's like it's a lot in hockey. It's just not a lot of basketball.
And then apparently Winnipeg's just passing goals out left and right to guys because their differential is plus 39. Like,
Hollaback is such an amazing goalie. I mean, he's averaging under 2 goals let in a game, which is like, that's considering the next closest goal. Like, all the other goalies that are like top of the league are over 2 goals a game, like a lot of games. So
you're telling me having a good goalie is a good recipe for success.
It's telling you that the 15-1 Winnipeg Jets have a goalie that could win them 15 games.
I don't know. I feel like at this rate, their goalie must be doing slap shots from the side of the rink and getting them in too. Just like, watch this, guys.
He probably could. It probably wouldn't hurt them.
I'd like to think that all of these guys could do that, being that they're professionals, but. It's probably hard.
It's hard because you got to like come out of your goal, and if you whiff or if somebody blocks the puck and you can't get back to your goal, you're like, oh no, a free open shot for somebody else.
Well, don't let them do that, silly.
Oh, Zach. Ooh, that's a good point.
I mean, if you're gonna
about just not,
if you're gonna do that, just don't do that. I mean,
don't do it. All right, thank you for take that into consideration. Thank you so much.
I'm telling
Big if true.
I could be a coach. It's plain and simple. That thing that doesn't work, don't do that. Do the thing that does work. Boom, easy.
Boom.
Which franchise in the NHL can we buy?
Probably
Oh.
Nashville.
Oh. Well, we can't do the Utah Hockey Club because they just got bought out. So like we're a little late on that train from Arizona. I mean, if San Jose keeps tanking, I mean, there's a shot that they could do that too. But now Anaheim is also below them in the standings, so
Ooh,
like,
I
they
would
could
like-
also suck.
I love
Anaheim
the
would be fun.
Ducks logo. I love the Anaheim Ducks logo so much.
We wouldn't have. Honestly, we wouldn't have to change anything. We would just own the team. I would probably keep
Hold on,
everything
time
the
out.
same.
I'd like to turn around the winning part of their team, but everything else can stay.
Yes, obviously that part will rehaul and re-roster, like get new players, rosterize everything, whatever you want to call it.
I do appreciate that no one has called us out on how yet. Go ahead and do it. We're not going to answer it, but we're just going to do it.
Yeah, concepts of a plan.
Well, yeah,
It's
that Patreon, what was it, 14 billion last week? Now we're adding a 13. We're easily shooting what 17, 18 billion now
Probably
with
round up to
inflation.
20 if we got to do some rosterizing.
Yeah, we're easily up to 20 billion now on the Patreon.
I was wondering how we were going to fill this in with, not really talking about MLB this time around. How we were going to squeeze in the Patreon. I'm glad we figured it out.
We would. The scavenger hunt for the Patreon link is still ongoing, so
Yes.
we haven't.
We have not had a lucky contestant yet.
received the donations that are definitely coming in to invest in finding the MLB teams. So
You guys joke.
little snag.
You guys joke. I'm waiting until somebody actually texts me like, "Hey, I found your link." I'll be like, "Excuse me?
How much is in it?
Where?
And please let us know where we can look.
Can you show me?" "Oh, it's on the blockchain." "Cool.
Oh,
It's worthless.
It's worth a whole Bitcoin."
hey man, that's a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, but I can't hold Bitcoin in my hands.
Speaking of other things that don't have meaning, the Wolves.
Oh,
Playing some unserious basketball right now.
Segues are tough. That one I would say is good.
But they're currently still, if you throw back to last episode, if you haven't listened to that, I'm pretty sure Zach can do a big neon link to it somehow, somewhere.
I don't pay for YouTube, unfortunately. So
but
I'll just.
Well, we can pay for YouTube.
You sure can.
They are still in the midst of their Trailblazers extravaganza. Three games in 5 days against Portland. So they won the first one at home pretty handily. It was after kind of a off-ish game against Chicago. They came out firing against Portland and pretty well blew them out. I don't believe Ant played past the third quarter and had 37 points through 3 quarters. So that was fun. And then it got less fun after that because they had a 2-point loss to the Heat. That was just very interesting end of game management, and then went to Portland last night, the Portland Trailblazers extravaganza, the in-season tournament also part of that, I guess. So that was I was texting you guys that had to be disorienting playing on that court because that was ugly. But they came in, I think, as about 10-point favorites and lost by 14, I believe. And they play again tonight at 7:00 Pacific time again, which is late for Pacific time for those that don't know how time zones work.
Fake time zone.
Still, so they were 10-point they were 10-point favorites last night, and somehow they're 11-point favorites tonight. So that'll be very interesting to see. But yeah, they didn't show up last night. They didn't play defense. I think they had one guy that had a positive plus minus on the entire team, and Ant had the lowest plus minus. Which, if you don't know about plus minus is bad, plus is good. So lower minus is more bad, and a lot of players on the
More bad.
Timberwolves were on that more bad spectrum side of the spectrum. So that is the current state of the Wolves trying to be back. Currently on a hiatus. They come to Sacramento on Friday, though, so I'm going to give them a pep talk in the locker room beforehand, give them the old what for, and I think they'll be on their way after that. But a little bit of rough patch in Wolves territory right now, but that's kind of how things are shaking out up there. How are we feeling about the Suns and or the Thunder?
You go there, Zach.
Well, I will say this: there are outside. I wanted to start with not the Suns because I just was looking up like the standings and some just quick stats real quick. No one informed me that the Cavaliers are 12-0.
Yeah.
Oh, when the hell did that happen?
Like you didn't inform us that the Suns were what 7-1 when I texted you that. Like,
True.
Where did that come from?
True, but it was one of those things where it's like, if I don't like, it's the superstitious thing where it's like, if I don't say anything about it, it'll keep going, and so far it has. So yeah, the Suns are 9-2, leading, I guess technically tied, but leading the the Western side of the NBA, which is crazy to me too, because just looking at again quick stats here, the Thunder have a point differential of 12.2, and the Suns only have one of 2.7, which I didn't look at the Thunder's schedule, so it could be that they like outscored a bunch of teams like crazy.
They have. I mean, yes, Oklahoma City has played some questionable opponents, but even when they haven't, they're still like kicking a lot of people's butts when they do it.
Well, so then like the reverse is like the Suns outside of like 2 or 3 games have played teams that are at least doing really pretty well so far this year. So it's not to say that the Thunder are a fake 9-2, but more like it's just, it seems like the teams that are good this year have all like rose to the top right away. And then there's definitely a divide between who's good and who sucks. I will say again, I was shocked to see that the Cavaliers are 12-0. I'm sitting here thinking, Boston's going to be.
I was just looking at their schedule and they've played like 3 teams. I'll be honest.
Okay, well, yeah. Fair enough then. But still, I just was like, I just felt like Cleveland was one of those teams that you weren't going to hear from for at least a few years. But
they've got Donovan Mitchell's playing well, and they got Jared Allen, Evan Mobley locking down the front court. So it makes sense. I just I didn't expect 12-0. But
exactly. I guess the overall. So the Suns, I guess right now are going through a bit. Not necessarily a rough patch. They're winning, but it's more of they just lost KD. They're out Nurkic. A couple other people are hurt, but I think are game time decisions for tonight or tomorrow whenever they play. So it's going pretty good, but a lot of season left. If they can maintain it, great. We'll see. I think the biggest thing is that a team last year that was like dead last in like last minute clutch games or whatever. Was like 1-15 or something by this point in the year or something or whatever. There was some stat I read where they were like 1-12 in clutch games in the month of November and December. And now they reversed that essentially. So it's not that many, but they're finding ways to win even when their big dogs are down, and they're also playing really well. And it turns out having a head coach that kind of play to your philosophy with the players you have, turns out that helps. So I haven't got to watch too many of their games just because I don't have a way to watch the games. I'm not paying for NBA TV right now.
Well, you have you have a way. You're just not doing it.
Hey, yeah, you can't even afford food right now. We went over this in the last episode. If you're the listeners,
correct. Yeah, so shame on all of you for starving Zach.
Yes,
correct. It's weird. I haven't lost a lot of weight though, so I thought maybe it'd be a great weight loss plan, but it hasn't worked out yet. So, no, I mean overall though, the Suns are doing great, and tied with the Thunder and the Warriors at the top of the Western Conference. So, good times. Andy?
Obviously, the biggest storyline that has come out since we last talked is one Chet Holmgren is now out
Turned
for
80 this week.
turned 80 against the Warriors, apparently going up for a block and landing on his hip and shattering his something pelvic bone.
Just so you're aware, by the way,
he
Nate,
fractured it. But
if you ever break your hip before age 80, we are 100% calling you old. So
yeah,
I would recommend not breaking your hip.
I mean, in general, but
Well, yeah, but I mean, just letting you know, I would
Yeah.
recommend not breaking your hip ever.
So yeah, that was obviously the biggest news that came out of the Thunder's loss to Golden State, which no surprise that once Steph Curry is still mighty good at shooting the old basketball. If you're not aware,
he had done it again last night too. For
Yeah,
those
he
who
did.
were watching,
so even without the dominant franchise run, dynasty run of the Golden State Warriors, they still have Steph Curry, and he's still mighty good at basketball. And the Warriors are not bad, all things considered, who are also tied at 9-2 with the Suns and the Thunder. So
Draymond is still big enough to take out at least 2 guys per game. So
yes, he did not take out Chet though. So I wish he.
He's-
I mean, I don't want to say I wish he would have, but I wish it would have been him that Chet kind of blocked, so that I could just be like more pissed at Draymond. But
Not only is Draymond still big enough to take out 2 guys, he's still big enough to take out 2 guys and get away with it.
yes,
true.
Oh, that'll be a half game suspension. You have to sit out. Oh, okay.
yes,
Pretty sure targeting in football
Yeah.
is ruled harsher than Draymond Green. So
Hey,
Yeah.
that's 2 minutes on the bench for you, sir.
and I
we were gonna sub you anyway.
forgot during that game he just took a nice old swing at Lou Dort's head and only got a flagrant 1, which I guess swinging at people's head with your arm and just only a minor flagrant foul.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, especially
That
from
tracks.
one that literally gets banned for this kind of stuff every single season, anyways. So
Rudy would be deported if he did
Yeah.
that.
yeah, not Draymond, just we'll deal with it later type thing. Like he just does this, it's fine.
It's a
He just gets
it's
a
like
little
kicking the
angry
can down the
sometimes.
road.
Yeah, just a little angry. So yeah, he shuts out for 8 to 10 weeks. He'll be evaluated sometime in January. That's just to be evaluated to come back. Who knows if he'll actually be ready by then. So OKC is going small ball for the next couple of weeks till Hardenstein gets geared up, ready to go, be back as a true center for Oklahoma by the time at the end of the month, roughly. It's still his timetable to return, but they are okay with going small ball, and so far it's kind of working. I mean, after the Chet injury, they came out, beat the Clippers in another clutch game, and playing the Pelicans tonight. A very depleted Pelicans team, for that fact.
I think they have like 2 people left on their team.
Yeah, everybody that you would know that's maybe on the Pelicans is not playing. And that might only be Zion and Brendan Ingram that most people might know.
So how long is Zion out for? Because I feel like he hasn't played in
Dude,
the
I
NBA
don't know.
like
Indefinitely
all.
was the last
Yeah.
update I saw.
oh dude.
I don't want to say he's been a flop since he's been in the league, but like the amount of hype that he had coming into the league and then just what it has been, it's just not been.
He's
what
good
it
when
was.
he's on the court.
Yeah.
He just hasn't played
not on the
more
court
than like
very
10
often.
games a season.
Jeez.
So it's
Poor guy.
it'll be interesting to see how OKC kind of handles the small ball rotation, next couple of weeks, and if they're just going to ride it out or if they're going to try, maybe test the trade market early enough with the draft capital they have just to try to get some help until Chet gets back or anything like that. But it's going to be interesting, and they might be okay with small ball, but going forward that might be a little hard to sustain, especially when you go against teams that don't have small ball centers that actually have like true 7-foot alien type centers to defend. But they're still 9-2. I'm still gonna ride the hot streak while Alex is he's not even healthy tonight. He's out tonight. But when he does play, I'm still gonna obviously root for them. But it's gonna be interesting how they handle the Chet injury going forward. But yeah. I also echo Zach's point of where did the Cavs come from. Don't really feel like people are talking much about that. I feel like they should be, but they aren't.
I mean, maybe there's a seated reason as to why. I guess.
Right.
You
Like
know,
I
it's
said,
"Meh."
they have the overall like team that it makes sense, but I didn't expect 12-0 for sure.
I mean, I just don't expect like at this point we're a month into the season. Basically, we're not.
Right.
Yeah, we're a month in. I just feel like no matter what, every NBA team's going to lose at least one, just because it's almost impossible to sustain winning. Like has that? I don't think it's ever happened. I think the best record we've ever seen was
The Warriors.
Warriors.
yeah, and that was what 72-10 or something like that. It may not have been that much, but it was 70 something, wasn't it?
He was 72-10, or I think 73-9.
I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
They might have been all right at basketball back in the day.
might
Back in my day.
big if true. Big if true.
My day. Dream I could say people not get suspended.
It is interesting though, just looking at like the drop offs
Actually,
the
I
Eastern
know
Conference
better.
and the Western Conference.
Back in my day, you could find people in the stands and get away with it.
True.
Only in Detroit.
Only in Detroit, though. No.
Only in Detroit.
But yeah, like the top 7 teams in the West have like 4 losses, and you have Cleveland at 12-0, Boston at 9-3, and then third place is the 6-6 Magic, and they don't have Banchero.
No, they're also not depleted as the Pelicans are, but they're not great at they're not injury bug either.
For comparison, 7th place in the West is the Lakers, so like LeBron and AD, they're all right.
That's
7th
really
place in the
about it.
East is the Pistons.
The
So
Pistons are not good. Or
they
shouldn't
are
be
one
good,
of
I
the
should say.
basketball teams of all time.
They're
So
there.
that is your NBA update. Things are happening. It is still, I mean, yeah, we're like 10, 11 games, 12 games into an 82-game season. So
Right.
there's going to be a little variability, but it's been overall fun, exciting. Like I said, the in-season tournament just started on Tuesday, so there's been some games with that. I don't think it's actually true, but I did see a post that was like the Timberwolves have been mathematically eliminated from the in-season tournament after their
I
first
love
game.
those posts.
We're just chalking that one up already.
But it is interesting. I still don't completely understand all of it, but yeah, that's it. Some people like it because they essentially make the games more competitive because you're trying to play for point differential at the end instead of just yeah, how they usually
seems like a lot of unnecessary complication to something that's already ongoing, but fair enough.
Yeah.
Maybe
But
I'm the dumb one.
It's a fun little thing in the middle of the season. I wish it'd be like a little later in the season. I think like 2 weeks in's a little early, but that I am not the NBA commissioner. So
are you saying you'd rather have it be when teams are a little bit more gelling together, and then the basketball?
I'm just saying, the product
weird.
might be better.
It seems weird when you put it like that, but who are we to judge?
It's just a hunch. I have no statistics to back it up. But
don't get me wrong. As much as I love like the All-Star Weekend, what if they just did that? Swapped out the All-Star Weekend. As you know, the All-Star game where everybody plays so hard,
super competitive. What do you mean? Ant was shooting left-handed 3-pointers.
He was.
Yeah, he was taking it super serial. Taking it
sure
super
was.
serious.
But
was he making any of them?
Not in the game, no.
Well, what good is he?
This year,
no wonder you guys are having such problems. He's not making his left-handed threes.
I didn't want to bring it up. It was kind of an embarrassing stat, but yeah.
Too late. Here we are.
But transitioning into the old semi-professional orange ball now.
More or less.
That's not an orange ball, but
Oops, it is not. Sorry. I misread it.
Nebraska technically won
Played
a game.
They technically won and played a game.
Yep.
Hey,
That's-
we apologize for wins, remember?
But I feel like they kind of should.
What
Such a
what do
hard
you
line.
say in that situation though? Like, we're sorry we played so poorly. Please come see us again next time.
I would take it.
I mean, they had two guys in double figures, and those double figures were 10 and 11 points.
It was not great,
A win
to
is
say
a
the
win.
least. I know, Zach, but it wasn't great.
18% from 3-point range is maybe could be improved.
I still chalk it up. I still chalk it up to one of those games where no matter what, somehow you just can't hit a shot. So in my head, it's not so much that who did they even play? Was it Bethune-Cookman?
Bethune-Cookman,
Was
yeah.
Bethune-Cookman.
So was the head coach off to the side getting a runza during the game?
Which,
like,
if
was
we
it
don't
against
remember-
football?
Was Scott Frost's first win?
Ooh.
Wasn't that the replacement game?
Correct.
Oh,
From
what
the right out.
what an upsetting statistic to hear. You know, I knew we were gonna have to talk Nebraska football later. I didn't think we'd be that upset. Now I am. Thanks, Dan.
Oh, Zach,
Appreciate it.
everything always comes back to Scott
Yeah.
No matter how much you hate it.
No one expected the Scott Frost imposition. Anyway,
You were supposed to expect the Spanish Inquisition.
I don't know. Anyway, I guess Bethune-Cookman, yes, I feel like you kind of not that you write it off, not that you write off any game as a win in any sport, just even if you're supposed to win, but this one just reeks to me of no matter what, every shot they took was just garbage. As in, even if they
Yeah.
shot the greatest shot of their life, it was not going to go in for whatever reason.
It was not their game.
Yep,
So-
and then they had 18 turnovers to go with it, so
That
that's not
needs to be
exactly a
cleaned up.
winning competition.
That needs to be cleaned up. But even if you play like the cleanest game of your life, some games just
Mhm.
in basketball at least, some games you just no matter what shoot less than 20% for some reason, and it's just. I mean, if anything, I look at it as they got the win in a scenario that could have been way worse. So,
true. Yep.
Try to find the positives, boys.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah, this guy's not falling on it. It's just funny that.
Oh no, I
that's-
wasn't taking it that way. I'm just that's how I saw it after that game. And then
right.
who do they play? Is that tonight or tomorrow?
fairly
They play tonight.
right?
So by the time this comes out, all our
We're
hot
all
takes
down.
about Nebraska basketball are going to age like milk, probably. But
Hopefully find milk.
I mean, milk doesn't
As
age well,
opposed-
regardless.
To not find.
Yes, as opposed to not find milk.
No. That said, though, who do they play? Is this Fairleigh Dickinson?
Who just played Creighton 3 nights ago? Somewhere in that range.
Yep.
And then
Yeah, 10.
and then they ramp up the schedule after that. St. Mary's and then at Creighton. That's going to be a fun stretch.
Yeah. The St. Mary's game is, I think, the game that's in Sioux Falls, I believe.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So, it's
Pentagon.
very intriguing matchup. I don't know how it's going to go. Depends on how much confidence they give us tonight against Fairleigh Dickinson, but we'll find out those takes come Saturday or Sunday. I think it's Sunday.
It's
Sunday.
Here. Yep, Sunday.
So it's going to be hopefully a good stretch going into Creighton, but I don't know. I'm kind of scared. We'll find out.
I mean, to Zach's point, I think it is still one of the. They're just trying to figure out the personnel and how they all fit together, and
Yeah.
that's kind of all. I mean, that's about all you can hang your hats on, because if it's not that, then it gets scary. So
It gets scary quickly.
As long as they can limit turnovers, regardless, you just need to do that anyway. But
the shot
they
will
can
fall
then-
eventually. Like,
Yeah, like
It is. That's the part that's like sucks. It's like it's basketball is that kind of game where like shots will fall eventually. It's just a matter of like when do they?
yep. And then as you get the comfortability with your teammates, the turnover should come down. So it's
Right.
yeah. And I mean, it's better to get the bad shooting, bad playmaking games out of the way against your Bethune Cookmans.
Right.
Than
And Bryce
in the
shaved
middle
his
Big
beard
Ten.
tonight.
True.
So
True.
maybe it's kind of like the baseball superstition where like you don't shave or you don't change certain things, but then you got to change it up. So maybe like this is how he's got to change it up. Maybe that's how you get out of the funk. And
Like I said, it's more aerodynamic. We're gonna see at least 8 to 10 dunks per game, I imagine, from him. So
God, that would PBA lit off the top.
I thought it was 45 points.
It's all of the above, Zach. How do you think he gets those 45? Those are just along the way.
Yep.
Oh, I see what you're saying. 8 to 10
Yes.
dunks, 45 points, at
Incorporated.
least
with
20
them.
field goals, at least 20 free throws.
Well, we might. I don't know if we actually need a kicker. We didn't kick a field goal last game, so I can't really tell you if John Hull is still the guy or not. Actually, he did miss an extra point, so we might need a kicker.
Yeah.
What a letdown.
Man.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
there yet. We're not there yet.
Circus back to football.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we play Fairleigh Dickinson tonight in basketball. I didn't personally watch it, but apparently there's a decent slate last night. You had Kansas, Michigan State. Kansas won by
Kentucky beat
8,
Duke.
but Kentucky did beat Duke.
Cooper
Flag
Flag
had a pretty
maybe
good
is
game,
not
but
what he's cooked up to be. I would still take him on my NBA team, though.
there's a chance.
There is a very good chance that the Clippers or Rockets keep losing. That pick goes to OKC.
But yeah, I think we're getting into like I guess we're probably another week or so out from the Thanksgiving tournaments, but I know like this is kind of that weird time of year where they start doing like Maui and playing games on battleships and stuff. So I'm sure there are good matchups coming up, and I mean college basketball is just spinning up, and the early season's always weird, but
Nebraska's like season tournament or their thing is like theirs is like Christmas time, Christmas break. Because they're like they'll play 2 conference games before they go to their, non-conference tournament in Hawaii. That's not the Maui Invitational. So it's weird because it's really weird, but I think you have to do that with like the amount of Big Ten games that you have to play now with the more teams you have to play. So yeah, like Nebraska will have played 2 conference games before they go to theirs and their conference holiday tournament, whatever you want to call it nowadays. But yeah, it's good to see, and I think from Creighton's standpoint, I think they're going to the first like NIL. Well, I'm only bringing this up because they're in it, but they're going to like the first ever NIL type tournament in Vegas this year, where I don't know the exact details of it, but Vegas is hosting it this year, and it's called the Players Era Tournament.
where you're going to be there,
maybe. Where your teams in it are Alabama, Houston, A&M, Creighton, Rutgers, San Diego State, Oregon, and Notre Dame. But I think like all of the money made for it, all of that goes to like the school's NIL funds and everything. So it's a new type of like conference or not conference tournament, a new type of like holiday tournament where NIL is like actively involved in sponsoring all of this and everything. So next year's teams are, Baylor, Iowa State, Gonzaga, St. John's, Michigan, Syracuse, St. Joseph's for some reason. So I mean, I think it's supposed to like kind of rival what Maui is doing in terms of getting big program names into this tournament, but now it's just going to have the NIL aspect of the funding going to the teams and players for like participating in the tournament type thing. So that's the only reason I know about it is because Creighton is like one of the teams in it for like one of the first years. So I didn't specifically bring them up for that reason. I just know that they were a part of it. But I wanted to touch on that aspect of, like, we're probably going to see NIL sponsoring a lot more stuff in the future. So things like this to come, not just in basketball, but other things going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, your baseball tournaments, kind of like what Nebraska does every year, where they play like 2 or 3 games to open up their season, against like Vanderbilt, LSU, like just early season type games where, I'm sure a baseball tournament could easily get involved in that as well and get sponsored by like an NIL initiative or something like that.
Yeah,
I think it'd be easier to say that they will. I mean, it's you at this point in time. I would imagine 100% that we're going to be seeing that regardless. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Slap a QR code on the back of the jersey, like on Oklahoma State can do that for one of the games.
Ooh, there you go. This kind of goes to what we were talking about before we started recording, but we were talking about what we're going to name the team that we would pick up for, if we ended up getting like the Utah. If we were to buy the hockey club or whatever they're called now, just call them the Utah QR codes.
Hell yeah!
But then everybody's jersey has a different QR code that just goes somewhere completely random that has nothing to do with hockey or anything at all.
I like that.
It used to be like, there used to be an old website like called Stumble Upon that was exactly that concept. So we just be doing that in sports mode, but like this one would be like. This one would be like a specific location to like a Chester's Chicken in like Indiana or something. And you're just like, what is this for?
I like that a lot.
I don't understand. I don't understand why nobody has hit me up with marketing ideas because I am straight up genius level.
They have. It's on the Patreon link that
people
haven't found yet.
My bad.
But we've found it. The people haven't found it, probably.
The people aren't looking hard enough, clearly. Did you just hear my genius idea? Look harder. Maybe that was a hint.
Speaking of genius ideas, the NFL sent the Giants and Panthers to Germany.
That's a genius idea.
Hold on. What are these segues?
Zach,
gold.
I'll admit that one was also good.
It's just like the scene in Animal House. Like, was it over with the Germans bomb Pearl Harbor? No, he doesn't know that, right? No, he's on a roll. Just let him keep going.
He took the bar.
No, we gotta let him keep going with it.
What a great reference, though.
If you're in luck, I will. But the week did officially kick off with an actually not awful game that we may or may not have been discussing on last week's episode in real time. But I believe the Bengals didn't convert a 2-point conversion at the end, and
that was the best game of the entire NFL slate last week. Was the Thursday night game, and it was a shootout. And I will be honest, like, yes, the Denver Kansas City game was close, very close game. Still kind of was like a good defensive battle, but it wasn't like a great offensive shootout game like that game was.
Vikings Jaguars were also technically a close game.
That, Nate, was an ASS game. Capital ASS game.
It's a shame.
All the primetime games on Sunday and Monday were awful. Yes, I know the Lions won out a walk-off field goal, but 7 interceptions. 7? 5 by one quarterback that still won the game.
Baby.
What do you mean? That's just Vikings ball, baby.
You're telling Jared Goff, who has been near perfect this entire year, threw 5 interceptions and still won a football game? Are you telling me the script is not in?
Hey, that's what you
Any other team that throws 5 interceptions in a single game will loses that game by multiple scores.
So timeout. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves because
I know
we went from the Thursday night game to the Sunday night game.
I was knowing that all the games were ASS. Besides the Thursday night game.
I will say though, the Cincinnati the Bengals Ravens game, I didn't hate the 2-point call. I was like, it's ballsy.
That's fair.
And also, if we're being honest, should have been a pass interference, but whatever. But yeah, I would agree though. Overall, I think the rest of the slate outside of one or two games on Sunday were bad. I guess Pittsburgh Washington was still kind of an exciting one.
Mm-hmm.
It came down to the end there. And of course, like I loved watching. I think if anything, this one is a fair one because the Eagles beat the Cowboys by a lot. And I think a lot of people really like it when the Cowboys lose in general because, I think people are tired of hearing about America's team.
I'm pretty sure Jerry Jones even likes it at this point.
Dude, it's
his
the whole Jimmy Jones aspect of there's the Cowboys, so it's the team, and then there's the Jerry Jones storyline. Two completely different storylines that you could look at Sunday's game with was, yes, the Eagles are trash. Or not the Eagles, sorry.
Easy. I was like,
Andy,
hold on, they won.
Allowed you.
It's like they won. Jeez.
Sorry,
Only
the
I
Cowboys-
would call them trash.
The Cowboys are trash. But then you have their owner, Jerry Jones, who's more trash, who does not think anything that he's doing is his fault.
Long live Jerry.
There's a metaphor there, but
The
saw a
best
tweet.
part had to be
Yes,
that
go
tweet
ahead.
about the sun, though, where it's like,
Yes.
hey, like the players have complained like multiple times that the sun in the stadium is a problem. And he responded with, well, we know where the sun's going to be, so that's a home field advantage. Then followed that up later with, we'll just tear the whole stadium down. It's like,
The new one.
what are you doing? There are plenty of other things that you can do to fix that. Don't tear the damn thing down.
I know you've seen the clip of like the one that Cooper threw to CD. CD clearly didn't see the ball because of the sun. Like if that wasn't there, that's a touchdown for the Cowboys and CD Lamb. And he keeps just running like, where's the ball? And the ball's like 5 yards behind him because he didn't see it.
It's just like, dude, and like to your point, like you said, Andy, there are two different storylines you can take from the game, and removing
Cowboys are
Jerry
trash.
Jones, removing Jerry Jones from that, the Cowboys, as much as I have a dog on them, are just broken this year. And I'm saying
yeah.
like they're hurt, they're guys like Dak's out for the year.
Mm-hmm.
CD Lamb doesn't seem to be happy playing for him, and certainly doesn't seem to be trying too much. I'm not saying he's not trying, but just doesn't seem to be in sync at all. Which turns out when you lose your starting quarterback, makes that a little tougher. And then just, the Mike McCarthy seems to be on the sun of seats. So
like
I don't know, man.
There's no way he doesn't end up with the Jets by next year.
The only thing that I will take positive from the Eagles game for me is that they won the game that they were supposed to. And not only did they win, they won handedly. That first half was a little like, they're playing down their competition. But then I guess in the second half, they were just like, oh, right. Like we have, Saquon Barkley, who I was hoping would run for more, but whatever.
Same here.
They won.
I would have loved to have had more 8.5 fantasy points out of him.
I would have loved for an extra touchdown by Jalen Hurts.
To Saquon Barkley.
I'm
Sure.
I'm tanking for Shadur, so
I would have liked if Stafford knew how to check down past the end zone.
Dude, that was wide open. Kyron Williams decides to throw it over him to the tight end. That's not open.
We need to open an investigation into that one. But
don't ask for things you want.
The other tweet that I saw about the Cowboys. Well, did you see the next day when they were doing the media report that there was a sun shining into Mike McCarthy's press conference and they brought a sunshade in for him?
Yeah.
Which absolutely hysterical after everything that happened the other day.
I hate to say it, but I feel like the Jerry Jones and the Sun, Jerry Jones versus the Sun was the biggest game of last Sunday.
And I saw a tweet from one of their beat reporters that like, when they have concerts or events at the stadium, they bring in curtains for that wall to place there. So
they have the solution.
Yeah, they just don't do it for the game.
They have the solution. I just don't understand that. And I guess like on one hand, if they're like, oh, well, like it's for the aesthetics. And I'm like, okay.
Not
but
when it's blinded you trying to go through the sun.
Like I don't know when I went to see the Eagles play against the Chiefs, the one thing I wasn't doing was wow, this is a very cool stadium in the middle of the game. It is cool. It's cool to go. When you get there early, you're like, yeah, this is really neat. The vibe is pretty cool. When the game's on, most people are looking down there, not up there. So I don't know.
It was hysterical. Every new content that I see about Jerry or the stadium going forward, it's just that's going to be the storyline for the Cowboys the rest of the season.
I like to think there's probably some architect along the way when they were like putting the plans together. He was like, "Yeah, this is a bad idea." Jerry's like,
The only thing that I did see from what also another one of their beat reporters was when they at the time of what they were building Jerry World, where that is supposed to be, the sun and everything. Supposedly there was supposed to be more commercial development behind that. So that they weren't too worried about the sun beaming in because they were planning for like buildings and everything to kind of be there and block that out, which obviously didn't happen.
Seems like a bold strategy, Cotton, to put your idea of an investment and be like, there's
on an
more business right there.
On an assumption that another investment was going to go up there and block out the sun.
Not only that, also putting it entirely on the idea that, like somehow he knows better than potentially the architect.
Right.
But also then stating later, we know where the sun's going to be. That's home field advantage. Are you sure about that? Like, it is sad to say, but you're correct in the sense that this is the biggest story that came out last weekend. I mean, there were good games, but like no one cares at this point because of all that.
Jerry is definitely someone that is like too stubborn in their ways to change. Whether you tell him 10 million times that something's wrong, he's not going to do it. Like, I think at this point, he's just committed to the bit of like, I'm not going to change anything no matter how many times you ask me to do it.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we figured that one out.
Oh, yeah. Other
I mean, for what it's worth, the Panthers
did win.
They did win. It was an overtime game, which is even if it's bad football, kind of exciting, I guess. But Bryce Young is now 2-0 in his recent return to the field, and you better watch out because in 2 weeks, old Mr. Mahomes is coming to town to face the Juggernaut. So,
I don't think the Chiefs are scared of the Panthers.
Well, they should be.
They should be.
I wouldn't be.
I feel like
they might lose to the Bills this week because they're looking towards the Panthers game. So, just saying.
Should have lost last week.
They should have lost last week. Speaking of segues, you should talk about the Chiefs-Denver game.
Wait, what happened last week?
What if I don't want to talk about it?
Is that a I'm tired of
sorry, it's in the contract.
No, yes, if you want to I do consider it that it was a good game, albeit that they lost. But Denver did lose on a blocked field goal at the last second to Kansas City, which hats off to Kansas City film special teams tape on which side to attack Denver on in terms of exposing their field goal block unit. It was obviously very heartbreaking and frustrating for me that Denver did. I know, and I told you guys this, like Denver did everything right to win that game. I mean, they got the ball back with 6 minutes left. They killed all of the clock. They made Kansas City use their timeouts. They drove down the field. They used the time, like they got first downs. They used their timeouts when they needed to. They got it down to the last second. Didn't give Mahomes any sort of a chance to, get the ball back and try to win the game. And then it ends like that on a blocked field goal. So obviously very heartbreaking. I'm not like, I didn't take too many negatives away from that game. Like, yes, the offense could have been like better because there were plenty of times where like Denver did get stops and got the ball back, but then also punted the ball away to, try to extend their lead on Kansas City and just kind of pull away furthermore, not have to leave it to, last second decisions or anything like that. But a lot of what I took away is, I mean, it's a lot more positive direction that the team is going. The defense certainly, after getting shelled by Baltimore last week, 41 points, they come out to Patrick Mahomes only give up a touchdown. The rest were field goals that they gave up. So certainly a different point swing from 41 points to 16 points against, the 3-time Super Bowl winner, MVP quarterback and Mahomes. Now, albeit the Ravens probably do have a little bit better offensive weapons than the Chiefs do right now, but it's still the Chiefs. I mean, it's still their great defense. They're, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid offense. But Denver's offense is slowly getting there. They're not perfect, but Bo didn't turn the ball over. Running backs didn't do anything bad. Wide receivers didn't fumble. They're getting there. It's just taken some time, which I expected with Sean leading primarily a lot of rookies. He loves to play as rookies. We have a rookie quarterback. We're starting like a running back, a rookie running back. We're starting like 2 rookie wide receivers. Our tight ends are fairly, only 2-3 level year experience in the NFL. So it's not like, besides the offensive line, which is mostly where our veteran experience is, a lot of the offensive pieces for Denver are just like rookies and young players, which is what Sean wants and kind of what this year was supposed to be for Denver in a rebuilding year. And yet here they sit at 5-5, 7th seed currently in the AFC right now in terms of playoff seeding. Obviously, there's still 7 more weeks for that to change, but still a good chance that how the rest of the AFC is going, if Denver can just kind of nudge some of these wins out and get to the finish line at 10-7 or 9-8, somewhere in that range. And assuming the Colts, I don't even know who's above them, but or below them. I think the Browns, Colts, Bengals, they can just kind of keep pace with them. I mean, there's a good shot Denver could slip into the playoff as one of the last wild card teams. But yeah, it's obviously frustrating that they lost to Kansas City, a team that I absolutely despise and hate with every human fiber in my body. And just the euphoric moment of easy 35-yard chip shot. This is going to be it. We're going to beat Kansas City, give them their first loss to the Chiefs are inevitable. Reaction right after that. So it sucks, but I took a lot more positives away from it. And I saw a stat the other day. Sean's only played Kansas City 3 times since he's been here, but the total points in that games is like Kansas City 46 and Denver 44 total in the 3 games that Sean has played Kansas City. So if you look back to any of the previous years before, Sean got here and all our other games with Kansas City, Denver usually gets blown out in those games with Mahomes. So slow incremental progress to, trying to beat one of the top teams, contend with one of the top teams in the league in your division. So just onward and upward. I'm absolutely am loving the position that Denver's in compared to what the Bears are right now. I'll say that with Bo Nix compared to Caleb Williams, I have absolutely no regrets that Denver drafted Bo Nix up until this point, because how Caleb has looked versus how Bo has looked recently, completely opposite spectrums.
Just you wait. They fired their offensive coordinator in Chicago, though, so
It doesn't
Caleb
matter.
Williams about to have a comeback.
The Bears still have their offensive line.
I was going to say, I think that's kind of the difference there.
Yeah.
Caleb had an offensive line like Phoenix,
which it would be different. In Denver, that's credit to Denver's management. They invested a lot in their offensive line this past offseason. If you look at some of the PFF grades for pass blocking and run blocking this season, I mean, Denver's one of the top 5 teams in terms of protection for their quarterback and run blocking schemes and everything like that. So if you look at the Bears, they're kind of mid to bottom of the league in terms of pass protection. So that is the only, that's what, Bo Nix is good too, at least personally from a bias speaking, but I think that is what is helping him look good as well, is he's got time to make decisions and be in there and not have to scramble for his life immediately like Caleb does when he gets the ball.
Or Dylan.
or Dylan. Whoa. We're there already. But yeah, disappointing they lost to Kansas City, but I'm happy with the direction that Denver's going right now. And only onward and upward. They're still very much, like I said, are in a playoff contention spot right now with how the rest of the AFC is doing. So there's still very much a chance they sneak in at that last wild card spot if they eke out a couple of these games. I mean, they got Kirko Chains coming into town next week. the Falcons have kind of been up and down where, like I said, we all thought they were going to win the division, and then they kind of started going on a skid. But Tampa also started going on a skid.
Turns out nobody's in the NFC South.
No, I thought it was going to be Atlanta and Tampa Bay, and then all of a sudden, both of the teams were like, we don't want to win anymore, and they just started losing. And all of a sudden, if the Panthers and Saints can kind of get on a roll now, you're like, this division can go up to the Panthers. There's still a path for the Panthers if they keep winning. And
guys, we knew this all along that this was going to happen. What are you talking about? We knew this is how it was going to go. Come on.
There's a very real world where the winner of that division is maybe a game above 500 again. if that.
Maybe
at 500. It might not be the team that you think. It could be the Saints, who just fired their head coach. I don't think so.
Derek Carr and
really enough
people who have played football before.
You're not going to go Derek Carr and friends?
I don't have too much confidence in that.
Not like Aaron Rodgers and friends experience.
Similar.
You see how it's working
honestly.
for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Derek Carr is probably a little easier to work with.
Yeah. But yeah, Nate, how did the old Mac Jones experience game go for you guys?
Like I said, I didn't get a watch, so
I watched with Tyson.
Honestly.
I can tell you he was having a really great time.
I'm perusing the stats.
Not many of them.
Honestly, like Minnesota side, not bad. I mean, the 3 interceptions, not great, obviously, but like
the funny part about that,
241 yards on 24 or 38 isn't a bad passing day.
At least 2 of the interceptions that I saw, 1 were in the red zone. 2 were going to Justin Jefferson. 2.
Yeah, makes sense. We want to make sure it's the most painfully possible, usually. So. But I did see, I think Aaron Jones got injured as well, and
then he came back.
Mean, Cam Akers has at least stepped in decently, but I mean, Aaron Jones is bad good. Things happens when he's not on the field. Turns out it's helpful to have a running game to unlock the passing game. And speaking of the running game, Mac Jones rushing touchdown was the other one for the Jags, which is
granted.
I'm sure on everyone's bingo card that week. So
it was a tush push. Let's give him that. But it is still considered a Mac Jones rushing touchdown.
Makes me a little more sad. I was hoping it was like a bootleg.
Yes, it was either a tush push or a QB sneak, but either way, it was at the 1 yard line and he scored. So.
Yep.
So
words.
Yeah.
When he after he scored, do you think he was like said something corny like a little bit of Mac sauce on that or something?
Is it like Kirko trying to cuss?
I hope so.
Kirko famously does not like to cuss, and it is very.
You want some Mac sauce with that?
Well, so now I'm starting to think that like when Kirk, if he runs in a touchdown, what's he do? Like throw a football out to the crowd, be like, "That's from a Pizza Ranch, homies."
Probably.
He just points and he's like, "Frick, heck,
darn."
Where's my Coles cash at?
You like that? You like that? You like that?
Oh, that's still an all-time clip.
Yes. But the Vikings won 12-7. I imagine it was one of the games of all time.
I couldn't tell. I was watching, like I had my multi-view up. Was it raining? I couldn't. Sure. It looked like it. It looked like it was, but I have no idea what the weather was like. But it looked like at certain points it was raining. So I'm like, if it was raining and the weather was crappy, like, yeah, makes a little more sense.
Feel a little better about that. So
I have no idea if it was. I'm just saying.
No, that happened then.
Okay. You go ahead.
There's no need to fact check it. It is probably true.
That's right. We are the #1 sports podcast for a reason. Don't fact check us.
Yes. Please do not fact check us, but we are.
But yeah, I mean, that win's a win. We don't apologize for wins. And
you don't.
The Vikings are 7-2 in a rebuilding season, so I'm not going to apologize for that.
And that's I'm right there with you, Nate. I mean, 5-5 for Denver in a rebuilding season. That's like, I obviously I could ask for more, but I am still surprised they are 5-5. And I knew this 2-game stretch for Denver is probably going to be their toughest on the schedule, with obviously having Baltimore and Kansas City back to back. But they're still technically 500, and the schedule does let up a little bit easier for Denver going forward, because you get the Falcons, Raiders, and then the Browns, which again, we'll see how the Browns are after their bye week now, and see if they kind of figure some things out with Jameis, or if we're going to get 7-pick Jameis. There truly is no way to know.
Just keep some crab legs on the sidelines.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think Vikings play the Titans this week, so going to the Mayo Bowl.
Eagles play tomorrow as of this recorder.
Let Tony Pollard have some points.
No. I would prefer them to go to Tajay Spears while he's on the bench.
Right. But yes, Dak, your game is.
Yes.
I mean, the Thursday night game might be the best game of the week again.
Hopefully, that'd be kind of fun. I hope it's for the good guys. But
in terms of like it being a good game,
it's at least for first place in the NFC East. So
the Sunday night game is Bengals Chargers, which might be something.
There's Chiefs Bills is.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. That's
and Ravens Steelers.
That
might be all right.
And so I'm saying in terms of primetime games, like theirs might be the best, because the Monday night games is Houston and Dallas, and
it is still shocking to me that Kansas City and Buffalo is at 325.
Right.
Like just in general.
I mean, CBS probably wanted that prime stand.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, like, it is just shocking to me that that's the time slot. Like that to me feels like a very much Sunday night game. But
what are you talking about? All of America will be watching Denver and Atlanta at 3:00. Zach, thank you very much.
Yep, that's what they'll be. That is what they'll be doing. That is what they'll be doing.
I don't know why you're so dumbfounded by this.
I will say, actually, looking at it though, that game might almost be. Well, I mean, Kansas City and Buffalo is going to be an exciting game, but like. If you're not a fan of either of those teams, Denver Atlanta might be an exciting game to watch
for the afternoon slate. Yes, because there's only three games. It's Seahawks, Niners, Broncos, Falcons, and then Chiefs, Bills for the afternoon slate.
I don't know. I still think Browns Saints is going to be the game of the week.
Nice and new. What about the Colts and Jets? Nate Anthony Richardson's back.
That's true.
The Raiders and Dolphins. Oh my God, those are some dead teams all playing each other. Holy hell!
Well,
my God, the Vikings Titans. The total is 39.5.
All by the Vikings. Oh my God, we got some absolute crappy new games. Oh, wow.
Detroit, Jacksonville. Teams. Detroit is favored by 13.5 points.
It should be more.
I don't know.
Until Mac Jones goes on a masterclass.
I mean,
I think Trevor Lawrence is already ruled out. So
he is. He might be done for most of the season.
Does he play for the NBA now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Left calf soreness.
There you go.
Oh, he's out for the season with what? Tight hamstring.
Yeah, same with Zion.
Speaking of being out for the season, have you heard the news about Marcus Satterfield?
I thought he was going to drop some breaking news on us.
One after the other.
I was actually genuinely concerned he was going to say something that was going to hurt us.
Not
the news. Scott Ross coming back. That's what I was waiting for.
No.
I was like, does Nate know something about Dylan that we don't know?
Yeah, I was just texting him earlier. He said he's fine.
Oh, thank God.
Good.
He said great episode last week, though. He said he was a big fan.
Hey, Dylan, do you want to give us some your NIL money, please, and thanks?
But yeah, for those who don't know, and for those of us,
it's been a weird Nebraska week on a bye week.
Those of us who were unfortunately incredibly busy when the news happened. So going back to last week, Nebraska brought in Dana Holgerson and Phil Snow as
Not to be
The analyst
confused
for the
with,
offense.
Oh,
Phil
Ed
Smith.
Foley. Oh, I thought you were going to say Ed Foley.
Oh my God! Hold on, before we go too far, how did Rule not think about bringing in Phil Swift for the defense? Just flex tape it.
That's a good
Just
point.
flex seal it. He cut a hole in a boat. All right, go ahead.
Yes,
But
Nate, continue.
yeah, we I'm gonna need some flex tape to figure out the transition on that one. But
You got it just fine. What are you talking about?
we got the new analysts on offense, defense, Holgerson and Snow, respectively. And I didn't actually look at the news. I just heard what you guys said. But Satterfield gone forever, in my mind, at least. Supposedly still on the team, but
Supposedly. Yeah, it turns out he's still coaching tight ends.
but
The
he
position.
can't. Oh,
He
Wow.
might be the highest paid assistant coach that's not a coordinator in the country.
Well, I don't know. I'm guessing he still has his salary, but I would be curious if they did.
That's
any
why he's going to
movement
be
around
the
with that.
highest paid assistant non-coordinator coach of the country.
No, that's what I mean. Though I didn't know if, like, with this, they did some behind the scenes stuff on his contract. or anything.
My
But I'm-
guess is probably not till the end of the season. And
Well,
then he might not even be here.
I was gonna say they're probably gonna pay out the rest of the year and call it good. So
Hey, if he can just teach Fedoni how to take
Run
less
vertical.
than 10 seconds to turn
Vertical.
180 and run upfield, I'll call it a win. But not to bury the lead, Holgerson, new OC, stepping into that new role. I don't know what exactly that means for the offense, but if you're asking me, I don't know that it can necessarily get worse. So,
Yeah.
I will argue. I think something
as
you
president
can
of the
say-
Marcus Satterfield fan club,
I will say I think something you can immediately say, and this is more of a setting expectations, is we should not expect sweeping changes to our offense in the first week with Holgerson here.
we should expect
two
a full
reasons.
air raid in the first week of Dana
Well,
Holgerson's here.
I was going to think
If we're
that
not
with
putting up
Dylan.
80 points a game and 500 yards, I will be disappointed. We should fire everyone.
Okay, well,
He's got a point.
there it is. He's got a point. I was going to say the opposite, but that's mainly because with Dylan, I guess there's potential he's playing, or is it leaning more towards Harvard?
So Rule said he spoke on Monday, Tuesday, whatever that was. It was Monday because he said, yeah, he'll practice Tuesday. We'll see what he's doing. Some of the beat reporters that I've listened to do think that he is going to lean towards playing.
Okay.
But Rule said, we're going to prep both quarterbacks for him and Heinrich as QB1 for Saturday. So it probably will be a nice early morning, 8 o'clock Pete Thamel post of how he gets his information. I really don't know, but that's usually how I find out how Nebraska has injuries is 8 o'clock in the morning for Pete Thamel.
I assume a crystal ball, but
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get some
He
sort
just
of
wakes
I
up
don't know
and
how-
just does this.
I don't know how else everyone else gets their breaking news, but crystal ball works pretty well for me.
They
but
all ask Adam Schefter.
yeah. It sounds like he's leaning towards playing, but Rule's going to speak Thursday. So after this comes out, so we probably will know more information on Thursday when he speaks again. Of Dylan's status, how the offense is going, how Dana's doing, so on and so forth. But as far as I know, he's leaning towards it. But I also would not be surprised to see Heinrich QB1 on Saturday either.
Unless we do
just
kind
given
of
the
like
unknown.
unless we kind of do like a weird split thing where Heinrich takes some and Dylan takes
Right.
some just to keep the repetition.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. I'm if Dylan's healthy and they don't think they're going to cause any problems
Mhm.
with re-injuring or anything,
Right.
I would think that he would play. I mean,
Right.
you would want him to play, but
You and everybody else.
well, two things with Heinrich. He looked good against UCLA. Not that they were necessarily playing like the most stiff defense against us at that point. They were more or less trying to just prevent us from scoring, obviously. And then, of course, the interception that he threw was by far the most Nebraska type
Voodoo
interception.
magic.
Like,
what was that
even
saying, Nick? Something Nebraska ability, something
That sounds
possibility.
familiar. In a past life, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's from a long begone time. But well, so we thought.
Yeah, so we thought.
So I mean,
reared its ugly head again.
I don't blame him entirely for that interception. Probably could have been thrown a little bit better, but it is what it is. I thought he looked
earlier
good
and more accurate. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like at the end of the day, too, like the receiver didn't help by kicking it up in the air, and I don't think he was meaning to do that either. But
no, Zach,
didn't help that
doing it on purpose.
Didn't help that he
Hey guys,
kicked it
watch
up
this
into the air.
bicycle.
No, just that didn't help the thing either. So he looked fine. He looked a lot more serviceable than certain points last year. So I mean, even if he does start, I have a lot more confidence than I did last year with how he would do. But again, if Dylan's healthy, I still maintain what I said earlier, though. Even with Holgerson now as OC, I still don't imagine that we see sweeping changes. I just hope we don't see a freaking sweep or a freaking screen pass on 3rd and 15 every third 15.
It'll probably work this time, though. We're pretty sure.
Well, okay, so timeout. I've called like 4 at this point. I think I've run out of timeouts. But screen passes can work when you have the personnel to do it, or at least have the personnel that's able to block. And guess what? We don't. So
yeah, but it'll probably work this time.
What's the definition of insanity?
Don't worry about it. I will say though,
brute forcing it till it works.
Square peg round hole. I think.
Yes.
I will say though, I think.
But you watch that one video where every shape goes in the same hole, no matter the shape,
which is amazing. That's right. It's the square
triangle.
hole.
Oh, that's right. The square hole.
Which, by the way, this completely unrelated, but the person that designed that game, such poor design. It's supposed to make it so things don't fit in there.
Right. Not that every shape literally fits in the same hole.
That might be the definition of insanity. But
that's your point.
My takes on this, and then I will let you guys go, is that 2 things to come from it. One, like Nate said, is that our offense with Marcus Satterfield has been one of the worst in NCAA this year. So that's not great. That's, obviously not a good sign of things.
Especially when he's getting paid top 5 OC money.
Correct. So that's not great. But this coming in, Dana Holgerson has, even at his worst, has far better stats than we're seeing now with our current offense. So that's always a good sign. If nothing else, it's a change that needed to be made. I don't know. Nate is gonna disagree with me. I could see the reason why we kept Marcus Satterfield around at the beginning of the year. Not that it was necessarily the greatest move, but I was like, I kind of see where maybe he has the potential. Obviously, we see where that's going. So that didn't work out great. Then the second one being is that I think this alleviated my concerns where what we saw with Frost, where he was too loyal to his own guys. I think Dana Holgerson might be one of his guys in some other capacity technically, but regardless, we finally saw him make the move that needed to happen, and he did the thing. He basically demoted the guy. He hasn't fired him yet, but he demoted the guy and says, I'm bringing in a new OC, basically. That was the surprise to me, was that he brought him in to oversee the offense, and we were like, oh, like, come the end of the year, he'll fire Satterfield. He just basically did it on Monday. So it's like, okay, that was more surprising to me. But I think we're seeing that Rule is not overly loyal to guys if they're not doing what they need to do. And that was the big thing for me. Whether it pays off or not, we don't know. We'll see. I hope, as long as we can get one win, great. But we'll see. But right. That's my hot take on Holgerson.
And yeah, I agree with all of your points too there, Zach. Is it's hard to see how much of it we're going to see change in the next 3 games. Obviously, everybody's freaking out like, oh, the air raid can't work in the Big Ten, so on and so forth. And, that's not a this season question. you got 3 games left, and it's to give the offense just a more optimistic outlook of how they've been playing, because what we've seen through however many games, 10, 20 games with Satterfield right now, just I still argue the point that at least I know the offense last year was a running offense, but at least they looked competent running the ball and knowing what they could do well besides passing the ball. The past 4 or 5 games, we just haven't been able to do anything, one good thing, like consistently good every single game. It's kind of been flare-ups of certain plays and concepts, but then they just sputter out at the end. And again, how much of it changes in 3 games, I don't really know. Obviously, we're all going to go find out on Saturday what's just maybe looks like what changed, maybe what hasn't changed, so on and so forth. And I know I made this point last week is, yeah, you can change the offensive coordinator in season. You still have the personnel and players from the entire season that are still running your concept and your plays right now, which has been the bigger issue for Nebraska right now, especially the receivers in terms of perimeter blocking, receivers just getting space. I don't know, getting off their man coverage, so on and so forth. I mean, we've seen the plays where, like, with Dylan airs it out long and you can get one-on-one catches with Nayor and Banks. I mean, he's been able to do that, but, Satterfield just hasn't called a lot of those plays, and I don't know if that's more on him or if it's on Dylan not be able to read those, so on and so forth. And it might be a little bit of both. Dylan's certainly not imperfect in this situation either. During the UCLA game, he said, like, yeah, that interception he had out of half, he said, yeah, I just didn't read Fedoni flat over the middle. That was wide open. I just didn't read that. So he's still going through some growing pains, still learning how to read defenses of what they throw at him, so on and so forth. And you would think having Glenn Thomas in there was the reason, one, you brought him in to do that. What exactly are they doing with coaching him, so on and so forth. But it's a lot. Yeah, I know. What is our offense doing in general is the bigger question. But
I don't know. the kid was playing high school football last year,
right? And that's
gonna happen.
Yes, and it's very much he's still a freshman. 10 games into the season, you're still learning how to 9 games. Are they 5-4? Yeah, they're 5-4. Are they? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long bye week. I've been really focused on it.
Yes, we are 5-4. But we're on week 11. That's why we're confused.
Yeah, that's why I'm confused. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. The math is not math.
Well, it doesn't help that we've had 2 bye weeks.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you, Nate, too. Yes, he's still a freshman quarterback, learning everything of college football and learning how to read defenses on everything. And if that changes in 3 games, probably not drastically, but if we see just small increments of improvement in 3 games, I think that's enough. Especially, like you said, Jack, if it gets us a 6th win, I don't think a lot of people are going to be like, don't care about the progress that go forward. We got a bowl game. That's progress enough. We got to win. Let's just get to that. Let's just move on to next season, where if Dana is going to be your offensive coordinator for the next season, so on and so forth. I'm very interested to see how that offseason goes with the rule in the portal and recruits and how you recruit guys. Because if Dana does kind of implement a full air raid offense, I mean, Nebraska having 4 running back by committees is not really the way you go with that kind of offense. Obviously, they still run the ball, but you're not having 4 running backs by committee trying to run an air raid offense at the same time. So I mean, obviously that's going to be a future conversation when we get closer to the offseason, and especially with Rule does with what he decides to do with keeping. If he decides to keep Dana, decides to take away Satterfield's position, so on and so forth. I think it caught us all very off guard on Monday when that news was announced. I certainly was not expecting it. I was just expecting like the media to ask him questions about Dana, like what's he doing as an analyst, how's he being a contributor, and Rule's like, oh yeah, he's the offensive coordinator, he's calling plays the rest of the way, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I loved it. I was not ready for it, but I loved it.
So it's almost, and I don't want to say it's like a desperation type Hail Mary play, if you want to call it that. I could see how you could look at it that way and how you could view it as Rule's desperate to like get a change. He's doing like an audible at the line. He needs his play to work type situation. I can see how you look at it. I know it is. But it goes back to your point too, Zach, that I echo is it's the first thing that I was curious to see with Rule is he going to stick to his quote unquote like his friends, his loyalty, the staff that he's coached with forever, back at previous stops with him, are you able to kind of separate friends and business? And are you able to overlook the friend aspect to know what's better for the business portion, the team going forward, and how you want to, build your program going forward? So it's nice to see that like he's able to kind of separate those and say like, hey, obviously Satterfield, we're great friends. We've been in this a long time, but we just need to go in a different direction right now. And he's able to make those hard decisions, which I mean, I get it. It probably is very hard as a head coach to make those decisions, but when you want to do what's best for your program and what you really care about in this team, you have to make those decisions. It's very evident that like Rule obviously very cares much about being a coach here and cares about this place and the team and the players. So it was just nice to see that he was able to distinguish those two and do what's best for the program and the team going forward. Now, again, what we said all along, will that make a difference in 3 games? I don't know. I don't know how much will change in 3 games because you're not installing a whole new offense in this next week and a half before you play Saturday. And if they are, Godspeed to them.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a
bold but I am very interested to see how quote unquote different it looks in terms of like what packages or personnel that they run out there that might be different from what we've seen the past 9 games. I know the biggest thing that I've said this year is like Satterfield's offense was very stagnant, and once teams got to look at like what packages, what personnel we were in when we ran out on the field, they kind of knew what we were going to run. Without having any sort of like audible motions, moving players around type thing to throw out the defense. Like, the goal line against Ohio State's very evident of that is we brought in an extra lineman. We brought in a defensive lineman. Like Ohio State knew what we were going to do. We just didn't try to change out of it or do a naked bootleg or anything. So that's the part I'm more interested in is, do you feel comfortable with Dylan as well, trying to make those plays at the line and try to change the looks that were thrown out to the opposing defenses and everything. But I'm all for it. I think we all agree, and Nate's going to get to his victory lap here in a second that I'll give to him. And
what do you mean?
You deserve your victory lap. That's what I mean.
Well, hold on. We gotta see how it pays off before he can have too much of a victory lap.
No,
well,
we should assume that.
Got it. Nebraska Natty Champs 2024. Here we go, baby.
What's gonna happen to the other 40 teams above us that get us there?
Meteor.
Okay.
I don't make things happen.
They have, but I'm all for this change. I'm still of the belief that I'm still going out with the take that Dana's going to be the OC for next year. It's very, very odd that you would make this type of decision and then not try to retain him for next year. Because I feel like if you weren't going to keep him, you wouldn't be doing it in season type vibes. But that's my bold hot take. That I hope it comes true. I hope we cut that. I hope whatever we give Satterfield, we just like, hey, do you want his salary, Dana, and add a little bit more on? And then how about this? We give Dana the keys to the ship, and we just say, hey, Satterfield, we'll meet you at this date and time, and then we'll let Dana push the button to launch him into the sun. That's kind of like a retribution.
Yeah. Sold.
So. Coach Rule, if you do listen to us, you do listen to us. We know that for a fact. Why am I speaking in ifs? If you want to DM one of us, just let us know your thoughts. Let us know we can get this ship rolling. We'll happily fire Satterfield into the sun for you and let Dana do the almighty pleasure of pushing that button.
And I'll even be humane about it. We can give him a 30 rack of Busch Light and a Runza for his trip.
For his trip.
That's it. Just that.
What
Fair
else do you need?
Nebraska thing. Yeah.
I think that. Well, I think the
Food
trip
and
to
water,
the sun-
Zach. What do you want?
I think the trip to the sun might take a little longer than a day.
If you're smart, you can know how to ration it.
No, it's just a really big rocket, Zach. It'll be fine.
You know what? Yeah, I love it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. If you're interested, go back to the season preview episode, or probably last year, last at least 4 to 5 games of the season. I think that's approximately when I started to. I actually lied earlier. I'm not the president of the Marcus Satterfield fan club. I'm the president of the Marcus Satterfield hater club.
No.
Tricked you
sorry,
there.
sorry. Weird.
Yeah, I mean my consistent gripes with him are that he just has not been putting players in position to make good plays and win games. That going back to last year, there were down the stretch when we were trying to get the 6th win last year, there were just some very interesting decisions made by that side of the coaching staff that I feel kept us from getting that 6th win. And you did say I probably wouldn't agree with the take of keeping him into this season, and I definitely understand it. I wasn't supporting it, but I get it from. There were a lot of complicating factors last year that were different going into this year, and
I will say I wasn't
the opportunity
thrilled
for it to change and get better. So I get it from that standpoint. He kind of lost my trust, which neither here nor there. But I don't. I'm not a big decision maker within the team yet.
Yeah, I will say
rules and avid listener now. So
to your point, I wasn't necessarily thrilled of keeping him, but I understood why we kept him. But yeah, obviously we've seen that experiment has not taken off. So
yeah, and it's this
turns
year
out yes, Nate,
the same
we're
issues. Yes, and it's recorded. That's beautiful.
I'll edit it out. Why is there solid 10 seconds of silence there? Don't worry about it.
No reason. But yeah, it was just kind of the same issues this year where I don't know. And I think some of it, again, is the offensive line. They've had some injuries, and keeping Dylan upright is pretty important to the offense, I think, having success. And when that's not happening, it makes everything more complicated. But yeah, my hope is that Holgerson, if we're not 80 passes of 150 yards down the field in the next 3 games, I'll be disappointed. But
a pass from the practice field outside into the stadium for a touchdown.
That's how the air raid works, right? I'm
yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sign me up as
freaking Uncle Rico toss right there, throwing him over them mountains. Jeez, beats.
Nice reference.
But I think I don't think it's completely fair to say our guys haven't necessarily been
getting
off their coverage well, but I don't think that necessarily means we don't have the athletes to do it. I think
right.
We do.
I mean, this is obviously just kind of wish casting, but my hope with Holgerson coming in for these final 3 games is that he puts them in better position to play to their strengths so that they can get open and Dylan can find them, and at 0.3 seconds that the offensive line gives him. But I mean, we have Jamal Banks. I mean, we have Sharon Bonner. We have Malachi Coleman. We haven't seen him, but I mean, he was good last year. Jalen Lloyd. We've seen a little bit of Carter Nelson.
More or less red
shirt. He's on a red shirt.
I mean, to your point, we still haven't seen him much, but that's probably why.
Yeah, but there's athletes that they're not bad athletes. I don't think that's the issue. And again, I could be very wrong. Isaiah Nair, pretty good at the old football.
I will proffer you this theory is a lot of this maybe having a 24, 25-year-old wide receiver coach Is that maybe some of the issue too?
Nah, probably not.
Maybe.
I know he's the son of Joey McGuire, who is very successful at Texas Tech right now. But again, is having a coach that's like 2 to 3 years removed from like the oldest guys on the team really the smartest move? I get wanting a up and coming young like wide receiver type Sean McVay type coach, but maybe at this point in the program rebuild, I don't know if it's the insanely smartest move, but that
steady your hand there.
Yeah, it's just a theory that McGuire might be some of the issue, but who knows?
My only thing against that, I agree with the theory. My only thing against it is he also he upgraded from where he was at in the NFL, but he did coach a little bit in the or he did some stuff in the NFL. So it's like he's got some knowledge. It might just not be great in the on the field aspect. He might be more behind this. I don't remember what he did at Carolina, but regardless, I would say, yeah, that theory probably has some weight to it too.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah,
just a thought.
Maybe. But like you guys have kind of said, Rule saw an issue in the program and he made a change to fix it, which is big.
I think the other thing that has to be remembered. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It wasn't like a groundbreaking, I don't know, like a heartbreaking fire for Satterfield. Like he's still the tight end.
Yeah.
He's still with the program. It was a shift. It was like, hey, we're bringing this in, and we're not like just completely ripping this out.
Yeah.
We're making a change, and we're gonna see what happens. And that is important in general for growth. So that's positive to see that he took the step, and it's nice to see that he didn't wait until the end of the season to do it too.
That's fair.
Because that was kind of the, I don't know, worry for me, and just kind of the overarching narrative that we can't fire, which I mean, it's fair. You don't want a big shakeup in the middle of the season when you're 1 win away from a bowl game, but if it's not going well, and
you gotta do something.
Just kind of replaying last year, and
I think
he made a diplomatic shift in it, and we'll see how it works. But
Nebraska's at the same point where they are this year as where they were last year. Just they took 2 different avenues to get in there, but we're 9 games in, and we're exactly at the same spot as we were last year.
I would also, though, if we were like last year, if he would have made that kind of change, I would have been like, seems a bit premature just based on the other factors in our team. But yeah, no, at this point, you have to do something. But also, a lot of people were really mad at Rule for being like, oh, you're sticking with this guy. Well, he made the change, but also, for better or for worse, I think we're stuck with Matt Rule for quite a few more years yet, because at this point, his buyout would be insanely expensive. Unless we somehow find a team, like if Penn State fires James Franklin and they want Matt Rule.
That's actually one of my fears. Not gonna lie.
I could see it. I could see it. But I mean,
low key. I didn't want to put it out into the universe, but you said it, so I had a comment.
I think it's something that we have to be aware of, But if that doesn't happen, we're probably. Again, I'm not saying stuck as a bad thing. I'm saying I think Matt Rule is at Nebraska, barring that one scenario, for a very long time, which is not a problem. But it's also like if things don't get better, then the questions start to come. Like, at what point do you start talking about getting rid of him if it doesn't get better? Or, maybe this year was a weird year as well, and next year we find the footing that year 2 is supposed to be. Whatever. I don't know. I am glad to see, though, that he's, I guess, taking the job seriously, knowing at least some of what we know of the previous guy, where it's like, whatever he was doing wasn't working, but he didn't seem like he was doing much outside of getting his hand forced to make the change. This one very much seemed like, I need to make a change right now. And he did. So
it is crazy how much just doing your job usually makes you pretty all right at your job.
Right.
It turns out. There might be something to it, huh? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Maybe a little.
Streets might be saying.
Haven't heard from the streets in a while.
It was a bye week.
Fair.
Well, we kind of did this in reverse because normally we talk about Nebraska at the back end, but did we want to talk about any of the other games that happened last weekend?
I mean, I didn't watch too much other than I know that Miami got upset and Georgia did not win. That's really about it. I mean, all the other teams that won did win.
I will say my other team, Tulane, top 25 now.
They are.
Oh,
they are.
Ooh.
Well, before we hit to our picks, though,
we got to review our picks.
Did someone write those down? Because I did not.
I did.
Okay, good. Because I now have a running spreadsheet that will start this week.
I don't remember what my picks were, but I know I did well. So,
I think I missed mine.
The only ones I did not know were yours, Zach, because you went so off the wall that I didn't bother to look them up.
I remember the one that I had was the Penguins and whoever they played in the NHL.
Yeah,
and I said,
over 6.5 goals.
And then the Wolves.
They got 6.
But then Portland to cover Timber or Minnesota.
Yeah.
My logic, my logic was still sound. I'm going to argue that one, but they both. I was 0 for 2 last week.
Sure.
You meant last night's Portland game, not the other one.
Yeah,
not
my logic. My logic was correct. I was on the wrong game, apparently.
All right, so we'll start with Nate. Nate had Missouri to beat Oklahoma.
Yep.
Smash it. And the Bills
definitely wasn't scared there.
Bills, in quotes, to hammer Indianapolis. Yes, but they did not hammer.
No, I said hammer the over because it was like a 3-point. They were like -3 or something. And I was like, hammer that over.
Yeah. Oh, it did hit.
And I think Flacco didn't have a great day, which was also my prediction.
And now it's Anthony Richardson's job again.
Again.
Yeah, he's back on my fantasy bench. Super happy.
Went over Zach. So I did have Denver to cover Kansas City, which they sadly did do, despite my rooting interest. I mean, they would have covered if they won anyways, but they did cover the 8-point spread that it was by 2 points. And then my other one that I was more upset about was Kennesaw State losing in overtime to UTEP because I said Kennesaw State was going to win.
It just made it even more heartbreaking.
They went to overtime and lost.
Did you pick the cover though?
I did.
I know you said that they were going to win, but
but if I'm picking up the cover, I wanted them to win.
Okay, well, fair enough.
I mean, they did cover, but I wanted them to win, and they almost did. They had the overtime. But yeah, those were our picks. So not a bad week, I think, collectively from all of us besides Zach, but. Zach got 0-2, 2-0, 0-2. So now this is the week to not fade.
Fair, we covered the entire gamut because Zach went 0-2, you went 1-1, and I went 2-0. So we're that balances out across the board, I think.
Now Zach's trend's going to go 2-0 next week if he's on this
probably
up and down path.
Probably. I would argue though that mine were just close enough.
Close only.
Well,
counts
sorry,
pushers and hand grenades.
The hockey one. Dang, that one sucked. That one really hurt because that one was 6.5, and all they needed was one more. And I'm just like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah, that one was on every fantasy prop out there. Just need one more catch.
But I mean, in this case, it was a 4-2 game, I think, and I'm just like, come on, like they couldn't have scored 5. But then, yeah, the Portland Wolves game again. I thought there was sound logic, but I guess that had to be later. So. Whatever. This is why I don't actually do this.
Maybe
I do it for fun.
Maybe you just gotta get more into it, and then once that first parlay hits, Zach, man, it's something. I'll tell you.
That's why I drink beer. That's my vice. I don't need gambling.
Drink instead.
Yeah, exactly. It can't hurt me.
I bet I can drink 10 of these in an hour.
Oh yeah.
No, I would hammer the under on that for me. After 2, I'd fall asleep on the couch. Oh, I'm tired. Let's see. Are there any big games that we want to talk about before we hit our picks besides going into Nebraska's?
I haven't really looked at the slate for college this week. I
I'm
guess
The
looking
only
at
one that-
Tennessee, Georgia is the only.
That's really the only one that's sticking out to me is that one
Yeah.
is Tennessee, Georgia.
you don't think Wisconsin can pull off the upset in Camp Randall against Oregon?
don't.
Being
Yeah, I
that
don't
Oregon,
actually.
although I will say,
Actually, no, I don't.
I don't think so. But the fact that Oregon's only favored by 14 points is kind of surprising, just because they have cream. And maybe it's one of those where it's like 14 points. They'll get that in the first half, and then the back half is just Oregon playing their backups.
Right.
But I don't know.
Considering they did not pull the upset at home against Penn State.
Also,
Or Alabama.
I would like to ask, how is Arizona State 7-2, not ranked, but Kansas State, who they're playing, is 7-2, but ranked 16? Can someone explain that logic? Is the Big Ten just
no.
too good? Because you have 4 teams tied at 7-2 in the Big 12, besides BYU, who's undefeated. So
You're asking questions that we probably don't want to know the answer. We probably don't want to know what the answer behind that is.
I'm just saying,
I
Like, we'll get in
mean,
trouble.
the logic does
they're-
not work out there.
Their
Who have they
only
played?
decent win is against
Yeah, I know.
Utah, who's not
Who's not
ranked
good anymore.
anymore.
Do you think
you
Purdue
go.
will cover 28.5 to Penn State?
No.
Nope.
You can say any number there, and I will say no.
3?
No.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. If they were a 3-point
I'll take those off.
cover-
I'll take those off.
if they were a 3-point underdog to Penn State, I would question that all of Penn State starters are out.
Did Penn State go to the wrong stadium?
Yeah.
They had to find Penn State High School,
Yeah. Yes.
and then somehow Purdue would still be a 3-point underdog to
Dog,
us.
yes.
You know, I'm sure if there's some Purdue fan out there that's listening to me say that, look, I understand you don't throw glasses and or throw rocks and glass houses. Holy cow! I about goofed that up really bad.
Don't throw your glass at my rock house.
I mean,
off my
it
lawn.
works. It works the same way, but don't throw rocks and glass houses and all that. But it would still be funny if that's how the line worked out. It'd be like, objectively, that would be hilarious. Like, how? What?
Right. I think I'm going to go all NFL this week because the college slate I don't feel confident in picking because they all look like
Boo.
trash. But I'm going to pick the trash games in the NFL.
Hey, wait.
All right. Well,
hey, wait a minute.
I've got my. What did we call it? Sports lock? Is that what we called that? Or
sports bold and sports sick.
Really? Those both sound the same. Those sports
the bold pick and then the sick pick.
sick pick. That's what it was.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Sports
whatever.
bold and sports sick.
Okay. Well, I guess then starting with my bold pick. Tulane is favored 7 points over Navy, which seems odd because I feel like Navy is better than that. And it's at Navy, like Navy's home team. But I'm going to say Tulane covers that.
Okay.
Your guys' turn.
Bold pick, right?
Yeah.
Bold pick. I am going to say that Dallas does not cover the 7.5 underdog that they are to Houston on Monday Night Football.
What?
The fact that they're
all the
fact that
7.5
they
dogs.
How
Yeah, the
dare
fact-
you not believe in Trey Lance?
I should get the Cowboys some pick. It's Monday night, so the sun will not be a factor anymore.
That's a good
But that does not mean that they're good. You take the Jerry Jones aspect out of the Cowboys, and they're still the Cowboys that are trash.
What's that line? -7 for Houston.
Yeah, Houston's favored by 7.5.
Okay.
Dallas will
7.5.
not cover.
Okay. Got it. Your turn, Nate.
All right. My bold pick is Purdue cover.
Please.
No.
Well, that's the other one. That's the
I-
other pick. Purdue wins.
Oh,
Oh my God. Do you think James
I-
Franco would
You
get
won't.
fired?
You won't.
I
No
would-
balls.
You think James Franco would get fired?
I don't like that timeline because that probably puts Matt Rule to. But we're not going to think of that. Bold pick. I think I don't know that I can go a win here, but I think Tennessee covers.
Yeah.
Georgia's 10-point favorite.
Yeah.
I want to say Tennessee wins, and that would
Carson
really
Beck is just, he hasn't looked good this year.
that would really bolster the drum of the drumbeat I've had saying that the SEC is between Tennessee and Texas, but I think they'll at least cover. I hope they'll win, but I think they'll at least cover.
Right. Carson just has not looked good.
I would agree.
It's weird, but he hasn't. Now, how much of that is Georgia's off-field driving issues? Maybe a fair amount.
Now hold on. Did you mean to make that joke?
Yes.
I hope so, because if you didn't, that was just a funny coincidence.
And then didn't Kirby Smart call one of his players an idiot for celebrating with someone after the game?
Yes.
Clearly
a well-run program down there, and old
Say,
Athens.
seems like the vibes are. At
Clearly,
the
they
top
have
of the
their
world
poop in a
there.
group. Well-run program culture down there.
True underdogs though.
You're right.
Oh
Everybody
my
counts them
God.
out every season,
Yes.
No one
They
thought
have never
would be
had
here,
a chance
except for
ever.
everyone.
except everybody else in the country. Kirby, everybody thought you would be here. All right, on to our sick picks, Zach.
Yes, sir. I'm still kind of looking, but I was gonna
Uh-oh.
actually take that as
I
mine.
got one.
I was gonna take that
What?
as my. You're going NFL, Andy, or did you get a college
Oh yeah,
football
I'm
one
going
now?
on NFL.
Okay.
Nate's gonna love it.
I feel like
God.
this. I don't know. I don't even know if I like this one, but no, I'm not doing that. That's too sucker money, I think. You know what? I'll do it. I do think somehow. No, I don't like it either. Okay, I'm gonna go with my gut on this one, which is probably not great, but we're just gonna roll the dice and YOLO it. I think Purdue
Oh God,
actually
those
does.
are Purdue Pete.
I do legitimately think
Yes.
somehow Purdue covers 28.5. Legitimately. I don't know. Purdue got smacked last week, but
They
I
did
don't
come
know.
back on Illinois when they were down by 24.
Penn
They
State
took that game to
also-
overtime.
I know Penn State's number 4, but I don't know. Penn State has kind of reminded me of like the Big Ten version of Georgia, where it's like some games they look really good, and then other games they just look like they forgot what they're doing, and they come out with the win, which is great. But it's like, I don't know.
Penn
Purdue
State needs to
also-
get right game. Purdue has nothing to lose.
Exactly. And it's at Purdue. So not that that's that big of a deal necessarily, but
You
I
aren't
don't know.
scared of Ross Aids Stadium and West
the other thing-
Lafayette, Indiana.
that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying Purdue
Ohio
doesn't have
State
to
has
travel.
gone in there and lost. We
It's
will
true.
say that.
So has
That's
Iowa.
true.
Oregon did not, famously.
No, sorry.
They kicked Purdue's butt, but
No, sorry, that was reverse. Didn't Purdue beat Iowa at Kinnick at night? Wasn't that the big deal, or was it reverse? Did Iowa lose at Purdue? Whatever.
I think it was
Iowa's
at
lost to
Kinnick.
Purdue.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal because I think Purdue was not great that year either. But anyway, 28.5 points is a lot. But also
Lot to cover.
it could be one of those garbage time games where they come back and they're within like 20
Backdoor
at
cover?
the end. So yeah, like, does it really count? Yes, technically, but 28.5, I'm gonna say they're covering that. It might be by a single point that they cover it, but I'm taking it.
Nate. over the past couple days, I've marinated on this take. I've watched many a game film, many of takes, many of film sessions with one Dougie P.
I believe
Give
you.
me
I believe you.
Mac Jones
Yes.
to cover the 13.5 over Detroit at Detroit.
That
By
is
himself for the team.
disgusting. That is disgusting.
Give me Mac Jones to cover the Lions at home.
That is absolutely gross.
I love it.
It's no different than mine, I guess, in a different light.
Mine's just a little bit grosser.
Yours, though, the one thing I want to say about yours is that it's got that chance of like it's any given Sunday, and Detroit could just be like, we forgot how to play football. Although it didn't matter against the
Throw 5
Texans.
interceptions again. So.
Yeah, it very well could be possible again.
I mean, Sam Darnold threw 3 last week, so.
And they still won. So
All right,
anything's
Nate.
possible.
You're up.
I don't know that I have the courage to do it because it's not even a spread on ESPN.
You got to go to a different sportsbook to look it up because it's so bad.
I did.
I was wondering where you got that line that you have in our chat.
Yeah.
Over here.
I'll
Our chat just full of memes.
Yeah, why not? I'll go for it. Backstory on this one. Well, we'll get to the backstory after. I'm going that Mercer is going to cover minus 41.5 against Bama.
41 or 42?
41.5.
You got 41 in the chat, bro.
He's got 42 in the chat.
Or yeah,
I
sorry,
can't
42.
I can't read.
I can't read.
This sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Yeah, I mean, I said Mercer's 9-1. They have a better record than Bama, so that's funny to begin with. They also won a game against our friends Bethune-Cookman earlier in the season, 31-2.
Oh,
31-2.
31-2 is the final score of that game.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing.
Oh wait, what? Interesting. I don't.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Did you find a new line?
No, he's locked that one in. He can't change it now.
No, I just looked up the Mercer Bethune-Cookman the box score or the play-by-play, whatever the scoring summary. It's 31-2. The Bethune-Cookman only had one safety, but the final score, in the box score, is 31-4. Although there was no other safety, so controversy. At Mercer,
Bethune-Cookman got shorted.
Yes, as many were claiming that day.
So yeah, that's what I'm going with, I guess. Are we making some predictions on the old Corn Boys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. We forgot about the score, so.
Oh, we have to.
We can't not.
We can't not. I mean, it's what we built our bread and butter on. That's why Coach Rule listens to us.
USC's -9.
Yeah, it's a very weird line considering that you see USC as in the same mental team standpoint as we are right now because they're playing a backup quarterback now. His first career started, well, not his first career, but his first start of the season for USC. They are 4-5. They clearly have kind of fallen off since their victory over LSU at the beginning of the season. They're in a weird state right now. Kind of a whole cluster, same as Nebraska.
Hey, Nate's also in that weird state. Careful.
Hey.
That state's California. It's not that bad.
It's actually pretty nice.
I didn't say that the state was in the state of their team.
Your
Different
words
context.
were they're in a weird state.
So. In a weird state as a program right now. Because definitely. This is it's a weird game because it's definitely more of a hot seat game for Lincoln Riley than it is obviously for Nebraska. I don't know what will happen if the USC finishes the season below 500. I have absolutely no idea what that does to Lincoln Riley.
Well,
if
and
they
then the
give
news
him
with
another
them
year,
is, I think
Send them
yesterday
back to Oklahoma.
they're on
yeah,
they're on probation for
they're on
something.
probations that are for things that are now legal.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Things that were illegal when they were caught are now legal in this day and age.
It was bringing in like
that's-
analysts to coach on the field or something at practices
yes,
or something
that
like
is
that.
now legal.
Scott Frost is at USC?
Yes.
Wow.
Scott Frost
Close
almost
enough.
famously got in trouble for that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say that this is
Weird line.
the punishment they got wasn't that crazy. I think it was that and 50 grand, but
Right.
I take
Whoa,
50 grand.
whoa.
I take it was like suspension, but I didn't understand. It said it was
Could've tanked the
suspension for a
program.
year.
Right.
Suspension from what?
I mean, if you look at the last 4 of their losses, they've had leads in all of those games and leads into the fourth quarter of all of those games against Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, and Washington, and they lost all 4 of those games. They also had a lead against
that sounds
Michigan.
familiar.
Yeah, sounds very familiar. Also had a lead in the fourth quarter against Michigan, which they lost that game too. So that's why, like, it's a very similar state to what Nebraska is right now. Is like they are in this weird flux where like they are doing a lot of the things that Nebraska also does wrong in the fourth quarter.
Seen a lot
So
of
it might-
losses there.
Yeah. So it very much could be like which team is going to shoot itself in the foot in the fourth quarter first.
See, but
Um,
we're still Nebraska, and Nebraska
and
has this uncanny ability to
they're
make
still USC.
whoever they play look like Heisman quarterbacks.
Right.
And when it comes to maybe our defense will show up this time though.
And that's why the 9.5 is a lot for this type of game, considering that like Nebraska is obviously now at a new flux of we don't know what the offense is like. USC is starting a new backup quarterback that we don't really know what it's like. So I'm surprised it's over a touchdown kind of spread right now, but I'll be bold. Nebraska wins. I think they win. I think that
I thought you were just gonna
Nebraska
stop there. They just win, like, not give a score, just like W.
Nebraska did the football. That's it. I think that they overcome more of the demons in this game than USC overcomes their demons. Type of losing games. How high scoring it'll be. That's where I'm kind of in the flux right now. Is it gonna be kind of what we've seen the past couple of games, or are we gonna see a Dana Holgorsen type revival and drop a 50 burger? Which, if that happened, oh my god,
150-yard bombs, baby.
oh my god, immediately pay that man whatever he wants. Now Nebraska wins to cover, obviously, because they'll win. I think 31-27 Nebraska is the final score.
31-27, you said?
7. Yep.
Okay.
I'm trusting that Dana's past history of actually converting in the red zone does come to fruition in this game.
Nate, you got one, or is it my turn?
Yeah. I'm sure there are some stupid people out here who believe this statement, but guns are probably illegal in California, so Nebraska won't be able to shoot itself
Probably.
in the foot. So that means Nebraska will win by
Okay.
that logic. So
I like that logic.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll keep with the exercise and demons that Andy's talking about. I'm gonna go 24-21. We went on a walk-off field goal.
Oh, jeez.
We
You're exercising all the
walk-off
teams.
field goal, handing another team a one-score loss, getting to a bowl game.
I think Cedar Wright's going to have
we
a
will
revenge game
be
too.
blackout for the rest of the year.
Yes. Cedar Wright's going to have a revenge game against USC.
True.
So that's just from the standpoint that he's actually played really well this season, but he's been able to come in for Tommy Hill. But I think this game might be more personal to him just from him being a transfer from USC. But I think he gets a pick. I think he gets in there and shows like, hey, I'm better for leaving this team and coming to Nebraska. So
If Heinrich is quarterback, I reserve the right to say
I changed my score.
that prediction didn't happen. So
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go the opposite way. And generally, this year I've been somewhat of an optimist outside of OSU, which we all were not optimistic there, and we saw how that went. So I'm going to go reverse psychology here, is what I'm doing. I think it's going to be basically not necessarily a walk-off field goal. I think Nebraska might, kind of like they did with UCLA, where they just might. There might be enough going on that's new where it takes them a bit to adapt, and then we come out in the second half maybe and start getting things together, but it's just not enough. And I'm going to say we get close, but don't quite win, and I'm going to say 24-27 to USC. I don't like it.
Nebraska hater.
No. Nope. I'm a realist.
Wow, this is why we don't have a Runza sponsorship.
Yeah, Zach. Jeez. No wonder why you're starving.
Yeah, that's also fair. That's these are facts. These are what the scientists call facts. So nope.
No one wants to pay you.
I think there's just too much going on. I will say this though, and this is probably a spoiler for the next couple games, but I will say that I think
they beat Wisconsin too.
Well, I think this is the springboard to getting those games. I don't know. Iowa's going to be tough, but I think Iowa.
I mean, we didn't even talk about that. Iowa lost to UCLA.
They did,
and UCLA had 216 rushing yards to 82 for Iowa. And if you look at Caleb Johnson's numbers this year for Iowa, he is averaging probably 120 yards a game, if not more.
So it turns out when
you're begging me to take another victory.
It turns out though that when you shut down a specific part that works on their offense, but nothing else seems to be working,
right?
You may be onto something.
I think they were on a fifth string quarterback at some point. So.
Yes, they are on their fifth string
quarterback. That made a big factor in that game too. Is they were very down the depth chart in their quarterback room.
Yeah. But I do think that's my mentality with this game is I think USC is just, well, I don't know. It's like you said, Andy, they're such a weird team, but I think Nebraska just has so much that they're bringing this time around with the whole new offensive changes. I don't assume it's going to look vastly different, but different enough to where it's oh yeah, there we go. And assuming that Harburg's starting, I guess is kind of where I'm going to. I'm playing it safe. But this is going to be that type of game that springboards us to be okay, a lot of this worked. Now he's got to put it together officially and then go and win the last two. I do think we could. So we'll see.
Or risk it for the biscuit, win out, beat Bam in a bowl game.
Oh my God.
Well, that is also an option.
So on that note, we thank you all for listening. Also, quick note before that.
Boring.
Ohio State and Northwestern play at Wrigley. Fun note. Not going to be a good game, but cool experience, I'm sure. So,
might be a good game. You don't know. It might. You don't know. You don't know. It might.
Zach, these teams are playing a football game at Wrigley Stadium, and that is all that needs to be said.
Yes.
What's wrong with that? Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Some things are wrong with that.
Nah, you guys are overthinking it.
But we thank you all for listening. We appreciate you all contributing to the Patreon, even though you haven't found the link yet. We're waiting.
We're waiting for you.
But we are excited to see the progress that has been made once that has happened. But it's been a great week. Stats has been demoted. There's optimism that at least the offense will look different for Nebraska, and the sports world is still churning. We got a lot of action going on. So thank you all for tuning in to yet another week of the Sportsball Podcast. I'm Nate, again alongside my co-hosts Andy and Zach, and thank you for tuning in to your source for sports.